How you going, guys? In this week's episode I finish off the rear floor pans of the coupe and I play around with some dimple dies. G'day guys, welcome back to the channel, and in this episode I'm going to be walking you through the work that I'm doing on the rear floor pan of the coupe. So for quite a while now I've been putting off this job of tying in the old Mustang inner sills and rear floor pan to the actual Falcon. It's actually the last part of the merging of the floor pan, the Mustang floor pan firewall with the Falcon. So all the other heavy work was done and just that part just in the rear was left undone. Now you saw a little bit of it in the last episode where I'd sort of shown that I'd started to box one side and that I'd actually made part of the passenger side rear pan. But in this episode I'm going to finish that off, and so we'll start by just having a look at what I've done over the weekend. Today's actually Easter Monday. I did a bit of work on Saturday, and then yesterday, Easter Sunday, I just put a little bit of primer paint on some of the parts. So let's just take a look and see where it's up to. At the end of the last episode I just pointed out that I'd started boxing this part of the Mustang inner sill. Been boxing it in, and then since then what I've done is I've merged it across into the torque box, and then I've stripped off all of the original floor pan from the original Falcon floor pan, that is, and I've got a piece of 3mm flat bar which sits nicely down the center of the Falcon chassis rail, and I've gone ahead and welded that in and boxed that in. I've actually removed the lip off the side of the chassis rail and then fillet welded the edge of the chassis rail to the flat bar and then smoothed it off. And reason is that later on, once I've got all the floor pan and everything welded in, when you turn the car upside down I don't actually want to see any lap welds. So you'll see what I'm talking about later on when I do it. But yeah, so I'm essentially going to be removing any lips, and then probably around these parts and then along the center I'll be doing a butt weld and then smoothing it off. So I want the car to look good underneath as well. And then we've got this center piece which has been sitting there for quite a while, and then just the same on the passenger side, the whole Mustang inner sill, which I call it an inner sill, but seriously the thing's made out of toughened steel. It's more like a chassis rail than anything else. But anyway, that's been merged in to the torque box, and it's really just for aesthetics, just to sort of make it, sort of smooth it out and sort of make some sort of transition. Theoretically it probably doesn't need, it could have probably stopped where it was, but I've just merged it in just to make it sort of a nicer transformation. Okay, so what we got here is something I've made up, which is made out of 1.2 gauge. Actually, just so you know, all of this rear floor pan I'm making out of 1.2 mil. This piece here, it's just going to basically sit in there like that. Obviously, it'll be plug welded to the chassis rails and the torque box, and also to the side here. I might actually fully weld it down the side. And then you've got the rear floor pan, or rear part of it that is, which I just put a bit of funny pressing on the bead roller just for a bit of fun, and that slots in. Like that kind of thing. I've obviously got to sort of put it down. Actually, I just forgot, I need to cut a little section out of there for the transition, so that's not going to go into place until I can cut that. So Anyway, I've still got to make up another one of these for the talk box on the passenger side, so I'll go about getting into that now. Alright guys, so I'm just going to explain what I'm doing with the lines on the plate deal. So, and just so you know, my battery actually ran out, so I couldn't actually complete that part of the video. So that last part where I was just cutting out around the tab, and you could see there were lines on the plate. The reason for the lines is that I wanted to put a bit of a radius in the steel, and so the way that I was doing it is I'd just put it in this little sheet metal folder, and all I do just on one, I just give it just a touch, and then go to the next one, and just like really gently, you get a feel for it, but you don't want to do too much on any sort of, you know, on any one line, because you want to get like a gradual curve. And yeah, it's just done just like that kind of thing. Anyway, you get the idea. So that's what that was going to be the next part anyway. So now that that's done, we'll jump into doing a bit of a trial fit on it. Alright, so got the cover for the talk box made up. So that's what I was talking about with putting the little radius in it with the metal folder. So you know, it ends up like a fairly decent curve. And you just, what I actually do normally is take some sort of template to match it to when I'm bending it. But that's all ready to weld in, although I'm not going to do any more to that at this stage. Once I've got to sort of get the rest of this floor pan done. And also what I might do after I make this floor pan is I might jump into making the braces up for here. And I've got something a little bit different in mind. I think I might use a bit of creativity and use the old dimple dies and give her a little bit of a snazzy sort of a look if I can. So it's all in the eye of the beholder though, of course. Alright, so but before I do that, I'll just jump into this, making this floor pan. So I thought I'd try my luck and use the template that I made for the passenger side. So that's been cut, you know, exactly to that side. And just see how it went on this side. It's not actually too bad. I've just got to trim a little bit around that wheel arch, and it'll be good enough to go, which is great if you don't have to make another template. So I'll just go ahead and mark that up and cut her out. And there you have it. So it only took about 10 minutes. Yeah. So now that all the panels are made, and I've already been inside here and just done a bit of prepping. I've got some weld through primer around the surfaces where it's going to lap, and we're pretty much ready to go. So I'll start fitting that up and tacking it into place, and on these edges where there's no primer, instead of having a lap weld, I'm going to actually run the grinder through both surfaces so that I can end up with a butt weld.
Pretty close.
You're looking straight down my fucking ear hole, are you?
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep the Chinese safety boots out of shot.
Just keep a safe distance, 1.5 metres. Okay. Well, I can say that I'm pretty happy that's done. In fact, I'm wrapped because it's really two things. I've got this floor pan basically all merged with the rest of the Falcon, as in, you know, tying the Mustang floor pan into the rest of the car, and that's it's a big thing for me at the moment because I've been looking at that hole in the floor for the last 12 months and just thinking how ugly it was and wondering how I was going to do it, and it turns out it wasn't that bad. So we'll have a look at it anyway. So we've got in this case the Mustang floor pan is actually the seats and whatnot are actually set back about 120 mil from the original Falcon position, and that's why you'll see that there's a bit of a cutout next to the chassis rail just to, you know, get small feet in there. So you're going to be fairly limited to the size of the person that's going to get in the back there, but you know, I didn't want to have it as a two-seater. I wanted to make sure it was a four-seater, so there you go. And at the moment I'm sort of thinking about making it a little bit maybe like a Landau, where, you know, if anyone's familiar with the Landau, they actually have like a bit of an armrest next to the seat on the quarter panel side, and reasonably small seats. So instead of a three-seater, they're basically a two-seater. So that's how I'm going to sort of do this. I'll have sort of armrests on either side next to the quarters, a couple of fairly small buckets, and then a console sort of in the middle. And yeah, happy days. So yeah, good timing too. 3,000 subscribers, cheering. Yes. Thank you very much, guys, and appreciate you all watching, and thanks to all of you that have subscribed, and anyone that hasn't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe and hit your notification bell so that we can let you know when we're putting out a new video, and hopefully we'll be putting out more and more as time goes on. So we'll just go around and have another look at where we're up to. Xavier, who's quietly sitting over there, has been doing quite well with these doors. He's reskinned them. He's done all the work with the mirrors and the door latches, and still working on them. But he's getting to work on the gaps. He's also done a heap of work on this quarter panel, which was basically mincemeat. He was just telling me earlier that he's still going to do a little bit more to it, but it's come, you know, a long way from where it was. We won't look at the boot lid because the boot lid is absolutely cactus. This quarter panel, Xavier's also been working on this one. Again, on the door side of things, he's reskinned this door, and he's just been working on the gap. We had a bit of an awkward situation with the gap, so he's had to open it up down the bottom. So yeah, but apart from that, it feels like a real body shell now, a complete body shell almost. I've still got to do the aprons on the front, but you know, I'm just happy that's done. Now it feels like a full shell, a full body shell. So there you go. What else do you want me to say? I'm happy. Happy days. So the next thing I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to jump on these aprons and start figuring out what I'm going to do. Probably do a bit of bead rolling and such. We were talking about it earlier when I had it up on the actual stand, and I had actually thought that I could take my upper control arm apart and therefore not need to actually take the whole control arm up over the top of the cross member to get it off, but apparently that's not advisable. So the inside of the control arm actually sits over there, and then the bolts go through it. So to take it off, you take the bolts out, lift it up over there. So with the body panels I designed, I wanted to make them so they were really neat and snug, and that's not going to work. Well, it's not going to work if I weld them on. And I'd thought about slicing it through and making that bottom part removable, but I've got a few ideas. I'm actually playing around with an idea of just making this whole thing come off. But the problem is, see this edge? I don't want this edge to be exposed. Like if you were, yeah, look. Maybe not from that camera angle, Hayden. From here. So if that was just going to be removable as it is, don't worry about that gap. I'm just going to fill that with something. Yeah, I don't like it. So what I'm thinking about is cutting that down a little bit and then having a bead around it, and you know, weld it in, planish it or whatnot. But basically what we'll end up with is a step down to the surface that bolts on. That way you don't see the edge. So still playing around with it in my head, but I'm thinking about something maybe 5mm thick and just have a bead around the whole arch kind of thing. So then that'll be removable. We'll have some fancy little kind of, I don't know, ARP kind of, you know, aircraft type situation bolts, and around there that'll come off if you have to work on the suspension. And then these other ones, these other aprons, they're probably not going to be removable because of the fact that I'm going to have so much other stuff going on with them that I don't understand right now. So if you have trouble understanding me, don't worry, I have a lot of trouble understanding myself, so we're all good. Anyway, that's it for this episode, guys. So thanks again for watching, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also don't forget your t-shirts. See you next time.